All right, guys, welcome to episode 3 of the podcast. Still don't have an official name for it, so it's just, I don't know, my chess podcast or something like that. Thank you so much for watching. Since I've uploaded the first 2 episodes, I've gotten, I'm not going to say I've gotten a ton of reception, but I got a few people, comment and, say that they liked my podcast. And what I think is even more touching is that they potentially want to be on my podcast, which is obviously an honor. I believe my most recent episode has 55 views. The first one has 30. So hopefully we can get that viewership up. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and talk about some top level chess, just sort of news going on in the chess world. Most notably the US Championship, which just finished, Qatar Masters, which is ongoing, and then a preview for another top level chess tournament that's coming up. So without further ado, the US Championships, the US Chess Championships, that is, just concluded, and the winner is none other than Fabiano Caruana, who repeats as US champion. So he won it this time last year in 2022, and he wins it again this year with a score of 5 wins and 6 draws, which for a US championship plus 5 should normally be a good enough score to to win the whole entire thing. Yeah, just some anecdotes from that US Championship. As I alluded to last episode, it's been hard in the past to repeat as US Championship. I think the last time that it had happened over the board was Wesley So, and before that was Gadakomsky. Sorry, Wesley So was the online ones. It wasn't even him. It was Gadakomsky. Maybe Hikaru did. I don't exactly remember, but anyway, huge congratulations to Fabiano. I think Fabiano, and what I'm going to do actually for this segment of the podcast is, so there are 12 players, and I'm going to go through all of the players just so that you know exactly who is participating. So, and if you're here, if you don't want spoilers, then, well, you're not in the right place. So Fabiano Caruana wins first place with the score of 8 points. All of this is out of 11, so he scores 8 out of 11. In second place is a tie, Wesley So, Lenier Dominguez Perez, and the youngster, Abhimanyu Mishra, who we'll talk about in a second. Hans Niemann had 5.5, as did Sam Sevion and Ray Robson. Levon Aronian with 5, Sam Schenkel and Jeffrey Zhang with 4.5, and Darius Swiertz and Andrew Tang with 4. So what I'm going to do is kind of go over, winners and losers, from the US Championship. Obviously we know who the winner is, but I'm thinking, I want to look at maybe a couple more, moral winners, if you can say that, and then just some, players who had, a good tournament or a good story or something like that, and then some players, who potentially, maybe had a disappointing result or things didn't go their way or just something along those lines. And before we get into that, I'm going to turn my air conditioning on, so I'll be right back. I don't know if you'll be able to hear the air conditioner in the background. I do apologize if there's a noise, but I don't think there will be. So I think we should be good to go. So as far as the winners from the US Championship goes, obviously Fabiano Caruana, well-deserved victory. I did want to point out, there seemed to be a time, and I want to say it was in 2021 maybe, when he struggled a bit. He didn't do that good in the World Cup, and then there was even talk about would he even be able to qualify for the candidates. I think that cycle he qualified by winning the Grand Swiss, or I believe he got first, and Alireza Firouzja got second, which actually we'll talk about here in a second, or just towards the later in the episode, because that's a tournament that's actually coming up. Fabiano Caruana, and I don't have it open, but he's 2790 something. Yeah, he's 2794. So he's only 6 points till to 2800. Now, does Fabiano Caruana actually care about that 2800 rating, getting back up there? I don't know, maybe you care about getting to 1300. I might care about getting 1800 over the board. I don't think so. I think he cares much more about these titles and accomplishments and ultimately becoming world champion. I think that would be his ultimate goal. Well, I hope that would be his ultimate goal. But he's on form. He's back. He's clear world number 2. Ding Liren, world number 3. We don't know where he is. And then Hikaru Nakamura is world number 4. So, and Hikaru is like, what is that? 17 points behind him. So it's pretty clear that Fabiano Caruana is the second best player in the world as far as classical goes. And if Magnus fails to defend his title, I mean, he is going to fail to defend his title. So with Magnus failing to defend his title, then you gotta think that Fabiano Caruana has to be one of the favorites, not only to challenge Dean Liren for the World Championship title, but to eventually become world champion. And I just gotta say, it's been a long time coming. Like, I've been rooting for Fabiano Caruana really since he transferred federations. I believe it was 2016. It's actually something that my dad and I would, like, bond over because, like, you know, it was a good time, like, when Bobby Fischer became, like, world champion. Like, it was good for, like, American chess and things like that. I know that was, like, a different time period. It wouldn't really be as huge of a deal, especially now with, like, Magnus not defending his title. Like, is the world championship going to be, like, that valid, you know, moving forward? But nonetheless, it would be so sweet to, like, have an American world champion. He won the candidates in 2018 and actually held Magnus to all draws in 2018. He actually could have won the match, or not necessarily the match, but I think it was like game, it might have been game, I don't know, I want to say game 6. By the way, game 6 in World Championship matches are always cursed. Like, I don't know why. Like, I believe it was game 6 where, like, I think Magnus lost to Karyakin, and then, like, Nepomniachtchi lost that, like, marathon game to Magnus in game 6. So it might have been game 6 where Fabiano Caruana had a study, like, win against Magnus, where I believe he would have had to, like, perform, like, a knight bishop checkmate at the end, which, I mean, he could do, but it was just, like, finding that sequence that is, that would have been challenging. So, yeah, what am I getting at? Sorry, my phone's going off. This chess club chat I'm gonna have to, like, get to later, but yeah, so it would be cool for Fabiano Caruana to become world champion. But even if not, it's good to see him, like, back on form, especially, you know, he has a podcast now, and I've been, like, you know, watching every episode of that. It's cool to see him use that platform, and he also recently put out a course on Chessable, so it's kind of good to see that he's, like, you know, not just playing professionally. Obviously, that should be his focus, but he's doing a podcast, he's doing a course, it's just good to see an era where these top GMs, like, are overall, like, more available, which is one reason why I love Hikaru Nakamura. Like, he just makes himself very accessible. Like, he tells you about, like, and now he's not going to tell you, like, about specific openings he's prepping necessarily. Like, he's not going to reveal too much, but he really goes into, like, what it's like to be a professional chess player, like the preparation process, how he's feeling during the games, just like these instant recaps, things like that. So yeah, I think that's all good. So clearly, as one of the winners, I have Fabiano Caruana. Another winner I have is Abhimanyu Mishra. So he, I believe, is 14 years old and tied for second in the U.S. Championship, which was impressive. A lot of you might remember that he became the youngest grandmaster in chess history. He broke it at, like, 12 years old. Sergei Karyakin was also 12 when he broke it. He was the previous holder of that title, but obviously, you know, at some point it has to be broken, which indeed it was. And a lot of you may not remember. I remember it was a story, like, I think it was a year ago when he broke it, to where maybe it was 2 years ago. I could lose track. I'm getting old, but it would, whenever he broke it, he would play these tournaments in Europe, and, like, the tournaments were, like, very shady to where, like, I don't know, he's playing, like, older grandmasters, and there were, like, theories that maybe they were paid to, like, you know, throw games to him or something like that. And, like, I mean, I don't really know what was going on in these tournaments, but I just gotta say, like, no one remembers that now. Like, it's just so interesting how people just forget stuff like that. And I'm not saying that we should be, like, bringing it back up. I'm just saying that, like, it's extremely impressive that Abhimanyu Mishra, he became the youngest grandmaster legitimately, I believe, and he's just, like, risen up the ranks from there. And Yeah, I think I was watching one of his interviews. He said he's trying to get to youngest 2,700 ever, and he said he had like 13 months to do it, and he's like 26, 16 or something like that. So, very impressive. Obviously, I believe that like unless he loses interest or focus or something like that, he's going to be one of the top players in the world. Will he be some world championship contender? Who knows? Sergei Karyakin, the previous holder, I mean, he did make it to a world championship, so you can't say that he was never some contender. But we had never really considered him like some perennial top 2 or 3 player. So we'll see if Abhimanyu Mishra can like get there. But I would definitely say, I would have said like finishing in the top half would have been impressive. Which I guess he was tied for like second to 4 or something like that. Yeah. So he's like well in the top half, top quarter. Well, top like third technically, but anyway, tying for second is like very impressive. Like he lost a game to Fabiano Caruana. He just made some decisions. Like he traded off his bishop on G7 and a Sicilian, and then like Fabiano got this attack and then the conversion. Like honestly, like if you lose to Fabiano Caruana in that spot, I don't really think it's all that shameful. He'll hopefully learn from that, and then who knows where he'll be like a year from now. Like he could be like top 20 in the world a year from now. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, you're going to blink and he's going to be like, I don't know. He's going to be just up there with the giants like Hikaru and Fabiano. And, yeah. So Fabiano Caruana, Abhimanyu Mishra. I'm going to give maybe it seems like a random other like winner. I mean, clearly a lot of people did well. Like Wesley So did good. Linier had a very solid result. I'm actually going to make Andrew Tang one of my winners. It might seem weird because he tied for last place. However, I think him getting the opportunity to play is already in itself extraordinary. And maybe he covered this during an interview or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but he's not a professional chess player. Like, I think he's like some consultant, like a financial consultant or something like that. So he has like a full-time job, and I'm even wondering, like, did he just have to get off work? Did he work remotely during the tournament or something like that? Like, how'd that work? Like, I think for someone like Andrew Tang, who's like about 2,500 if I recall correctly, obviously he's known as a bullet specialist, but he's grandmaster, so he's got to have his over-the-board skills as well. I don't think he came in expecting to win. Like, it just would have been like very shocking and unrealistic if he had won. I just think for someone like him, it's almost like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He got in, by the way, by winning the U.S. Open, which is like an open chess tournament to where you can the top player or the winner of the U.S. Open gets to qualify. So I believe it's one slot from that, and he got in by winning that. And yeah, I put him as a winner. One, because he got the opportunity to play. I'm just so happy for him. But also, he won a brilliant game against Darius Swearts, to where Swearts, well, Tang played this like variation with like rook c1 check and like doubling his rooks on the back rank, trying to get like a mating attack against this king on h7. And Swearts thought he could like force a trade of queens, but then he had this brilliant rook c6 move, which basically, if it's taken, I've read the exact moves, but you drive the king just like into your territory, and then there's even a possible variation where you can just play queen takes g5, and it looks like the queen can be taken by the h-pawn, but it's not because the rook pins it. So just look up the game, Andrew Tang versus Darius Swearts. I might try to like put something up here if I remember. I probably won't, but it was a very beautiful combination. For someone who's like more on the bottom feeder and didn't really have a chance to win, like I'm just happy to see that. I don't know if Andrew Tang would tell me that like he was happy with his result. I think tying for last, even if you're like an underdog, I've definitely felt this myself. Like even if you're playing like all higher rated players and just consistently lose, it's still frustrating. And I think, to be like a real competitor, you have to feel that. You can't just take like moral victories. Like, it's got to be extremely frustrating for him. But congratulations to him. He played a good game. I think he won that game. Yeah, he won it towards the end of the tournament. So it was a good way for him to sort of close it out. Okay, so as far as losers go, I actually put 4 losers, but one of them was like tentative, and the other, it was kind of like tied between 2 people. So I'm just going to put them. I don't even know if this is fair. I put Wesley So as a loser because, and now I'd be lying to you if I said that I like deeply analyze his games and know exactly what went on in all of them, but I see like, what is that? 2 wins and 10 draws. I guess that's 2 wins and 9 draws. There's 11 rounds. And like, I don't know. He just seems like a very solid player, and I'm sure that helped his rating. And I could check. I mean, he only lost like 1 rating point all event. Actually went up 2 spots in the world ranking because, how did that happen? Oh, Gukesh lost some points. Gukesh and Anand. Oh, Anand's been playing European World Cup. Wow, Anand just had 5 draws against like 2650 level players. And Gukesh, I think that's Dubai. Not Dubai. I keep wanting to say that. Qatar. So he played the Asian team games. He lost a game to Parham Maksuli. I mean, that's fine, but like, he had some draws. Seems like Qatar, he's doing pretty good. Oh, he lost to some 2650. That's part of it. So he had a couple of losses in like the past month. So, okay, so that's how he jumped up 2 rating spots. I think he passed Anand and Gukesh. Ironically, the former Indian #1 and new Indian #1, which technically, yeah, Gukesh is still Indian #1, which is good. Kind of funny, I guess, how like, I don't even know why that matters, but anyway, I was hoping for more from Wesley So. Like, it just seems like he's very solid, and like, maybe he just doesn't take enough risks, and like, again, and I'm sure this will be a consistent theme in the podcast, like, I'm not like acting like I have some authority to like criticize these top players. Like, they would destroy me if I played them. But, I have, like, eyeballs. I have, like, opinions. Like, I mean, if you think about, like, just sports and things like that, like, I'm sure some of you are, like, sports fans. Like, you get these, like, broadcasters, commentators, and they just, like, criticize players left and right. And, so anyway, I would have liked to see more from Wesley So. Like, I can even see in his personality, like, maybe he's not, like, the most, like, ambitious person. But I might also say the same for Fabiano Caruana. I'd also say Fabiano Caruana, he's probably more on the solid side, but he finds ways to, like, win these games. So, anyway, Wesley So would have expected more from him. Speaking of someone I would have expected more from, Hans Niemann. Oh boy, Hans Niemann, all this talk like, oh, I'm going to be the first American world champion, which, I mean, I think he just forgot Bobby Fischer. Like, I understand what he's saying. He's just trying to be, like, world champion eventually. That's not happening, I don't think. Like, he scored 5.5 out of 11, so that's 50%, right? Yeah, 3 wins, 3 losses, and I guess 5 draws. Hopefully my math is correct. And I don't know, I think he just does a lot of crap talking. Like, he's gonna be this, like, great player, and, like, he just plays too much, especially, like, these open events where he's, like, losing to, like, this Andy Woodward kid and, like, drawing and losing to, like, 2600s. Like, I don't know. I think he's just doing a lot of smack talking. I'm not even talking about, like, the cheating allegations. Like, even before the cheating allegations, I was not a huge fan of Hans Niemann because, like, he's did, like, all this smack talking and just, like, overall kind of rude, honestly, I would say. Like, he's just, like, not, like, I don't know, he's a really good chess player, and, like, don't get me wrong, and, like, a lot of his, like, opening strategies I really admire, but, I don't know, just Hans Niemann, one of my losers. Another one of my losers that I put, they should be, like, American chess staples, and they are, don't get me wrong, but just this specific tournament, like, it just seemed like Jeffrey Zhang and Sam Shankland, and I don't know which one I would put, like, first. Sam Shankland, I put him, they both scored 4.5, so they tied for 10th place, so basically in that bottom feeder. Sam Shankland, like, won in 2018, won the U.S. Championship, and haven't really been able to find his footing. Now, I'm not expecting him to get another U.S. Championship. Like, that was, like, a once-in-a-lifetime, like, feat for him. He was very excited. He had to score +6 over Fabiano Caruana, who scored +5, and I'm not, like, here saying that he should, like, win another one and, like, cement some legacy or something like that, but just seems like, and I forget his, like, results in the past, but just seems like he hasn't really sniffed another U.S. Championship, like, since then. And then, like, Jeffrey Zhang, like, I think we all used to think that he was like the future of like US chess as far as like being like one of the top like rated players like in the world, and he's just not been that, which has been like disappointing to see. And like I thought he took up like streaming and like commentating like recently, and like I don't think he's commentating these days, and he's not in schools. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing. I mean, obviously it's not really like my business like what he's up to. Maybe he's just like studying chess and just like has support from the US Chess Federation. Who knows? But you know, someone like Jeffrey Zhang, I think he's my age. I think he's like 21, 22, something like that. And like, you know, I would have expected like by now. Reminds me of Wei Yi a little bit. Seemed like Wei Yi was going to be this like big time chess player. He was like very good at very young, and then it just like kind of stopped. Like we haven't really heard much from him recently. I mean, he's a really good player and he still plays actively, but a little disappointing to say the least. Well, anyway, that was that as far as the US Championship goes. Yeah, once again, hearty congratulations to Fabiano Caruana. I am a big Fabiano Caruana fan. As I mentioned last week, I'm a big Fabiano fan. I'm a big Magnus fan. I'm a big Hikaru fan. I'm not as big of a Hans fan. You know, there are some players that I like better than others. Not necessarily by their like play style, but just like the way they conduct themselves and how they represent the game, how they're ambassadors, things like that. And Fabiano Caruana, just great dude. He's like a guy I would just like love to like, you know, just get a beer with or something like that. So, anywho, hey, collaboration in the future. I'm joking. I'm a nobody. He has like a C Squared podcast with a huge following. So, all right. So Qatar Masters, it's like the middle of the tournament, and like the leaders are like people that there's a good chance you've never heard of. Okay, Arjun Ergiaisi are up there, but like not Noderbek Abusatorov, Yakuboev Noderbek, and then Javokahir Sindarov, which I think he beat Fabiano Caruana in that World Cup I was talking about. I think he knocked him out. I could be mistaken, but like, and then SL Nararian, some Indian 2650. So all that to say, like, and obviously no disrespect to these grandmasters, but you're not seeing like Magnus, Hikaru, Hans. Well, Hans is not in this tournament, but like, what's actually surprising, and like, I haven't really been like following this tournament like too closely. Like, I believe Magnus, he lost the second game, right? Yeah, he won the first game, he lost the second, and he like dropped a draw. So I would have thought that like Magnus was like just kind of, you know, not at like the bottom, but like nowhere really near like the top like 2 or 5, maybe in like 15th or 20th or something like that. Magnus and Hikaru are tied for 5th. So 6 rounds have happened. I believe it's a 9-round event if I'm not mistaken. Now, it's going to be hard. I was actually looking at their pairings. Magnus plays white against some 2600 from India tomorrow. Well, at the time of you watching, it might be today. I would expect Magnus to win, but also he's had like a very clunky event on and off the chessboard. And Hikaru has black against Parham Magsudlu. That's going to be a tough pairing. I think Hikaru can win it, but it could also very easily be a draw. And then if you keep like dropping these draws, and if you want to win the event, which I don't think, it's not like there's a candidate spot or anything, so I don't even know if there's some huge motivation to win, unlike the Grand Swiss, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I mean, if you want to win or like get in the top 3 or something like that, then like the margin for error is getting smaller. So anyway, we'll probably do a better recap of like Qatar Masters like after it ends, like when we know like who won, where Magnus and Hikaru and like Anish Giri and like all these players like place and things like that. And what I also want to do is sort of preview this tournament. It's held in the Isle of Man. I'm gonna have to fact check that because I think it yeah, I knew it was held in the Isle of Man, but I think they changed it. Like, it used to be called like the Isle of Man like something, and now it's just called the FIDE Grand Swiss. So what the I might just call it Isle of Man because I've always like known it as that, even though it's technically called the FIDE Grand Swiss. I'll try to call it by its real name, I guess. But the FIDE Grand Swiss is a chess tournament in the Isle of Man, in case you couldn't tell already, to where kind of like I was talking about last week, or maybe it was the week. No, it was last week, and I was talking about like Qatar Masters. It's also a Swiss format now. I actually don't know. I'd be lying to you if I said I knew if like Qatar Masters was open or if there was like a certain rating restriction. Isle of Man, it's a little bit weird because it's like invitational, but it's also like an open like format. So in order to get to the Isle of Man, which for the Isle of Man, 2 candidate spots are on the line, so it's actually a pretty big deal. Let's see. So 100 people qualify by rating, and I think they have to like, so basically like the top 100 players are like invited. Obviously not everyone's going to say yes, so I think they have like substitution plans if like someone says no. The women's world champion, who is Ju Wenjun, is invited. Or that's women's world champion as of December 2022. That's interesting, because didn't a women's world championship just happen? And like, I think Ju Wenjun won anyway, but it seems kind of weird that they would like invite the 2022 champion, not 2023. Anyway, 4 continental spots, each nominated by one of the 4 FIDE continental presidents. 4 players nominated by the FIDE president. Up to 5 players nominated by the organizer. So basically, like it's like top 100 players, woman like champion, and then like a bunch of nominees. Which I mean, that's fine. I think there are like 112 players or something like that. And the top players, I'm not going to list like every single player, but Fabiano Caruana, Hikaru Nakamura, Ali Reza Firouzja, Anish Giri, Gukesh, Richard Rapport, Levon Aronian, Pragdananda, Grishuk, MVL, Duda, Yu Yang Yi, Vidit Gujarati, and yeah, the list goes on. So it's a pretty strong field. I think the lowest rated player is like 2250 FIDE or something like that, and just kind of the relevant storylines as far as it goes with the Isle of Man, or the FIDE Grand Swiss as it's technically called, is there are 2 candidate spots on the line. So I believe when it was held like 2 years ago, the winners were Fabiano Caruana and Ali Reza Firouzja. And yeah, just some storylines that I think will be interesting to see. First, there are a couple of players, and actually if we look at the qualification, so as far as the candidates go, so if we know, we know 4 of the spots. We know Nepomniachtchi, since he lost the World Championship again, and then the top 3 finishers in the World Cup, which are Fabiano Caruana, Pragdananda, and it was Magnus Carlsen, but he's very likely to withdraw, so it's going to go to Nishat Abasov, who, like, you know, from Azerbaijan, had that, like, incredible run in the FIDE World Cup and then just, like, ultimately lost to Magnus. So, all of that to say, Fabiano Caruana and Pragdananda are playing, especially for, like, well, really both of them. I'd say maybe more like Fabiano, maybe because, like, he's coming off of a U.S. championship, and also he's just, like, I think he's the top seed. It'll be interesting to see, like, because he already has a candidate spot, so he doesn't have to, like, win this in order to, like, you know, make it to the candidates. And it's not like hoarding a spot would, like, do him any good. Like, it would just go to the next person, I'm pretty sure. So I'll be interested to see, like, how he plays. It's probably nice for him that he gets to play without the pressure of vying for a candidate spot. And, yeah, same with, like, Pragdananda. Also, what's his face? Abasov, I believe, is playing, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Nishat Abasov. It'll be interesting. I would be surprised just because of, like, his rating, like, where he is in the standings. Like, I'd be surprised if he, like, cracks the top 2. But if I'm him, like, I gotta be a little nervous that Magnus could just claim his candidate spot. Like, he acted like he was intending to withdraw, but I don't think he made it official. So I think if you're Abasov, your candidate spot is not safe until you, like, sign the contract or something like that. So if I'm him, like, I mean, shoot, I just almost won the World Cup. I can, like, try to do very well in this tournament as well. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how he does. Some other storylines. Ali Reza Firouzja is kind of back. Like, he wasn't retired, but in 2022, he had a rough candidates tournament, and then I think he played, like, Singfield Cup and, like, another tournament or two. Like, he played, like, Norway chess, but he hasn't played much classical chess, like, since that candidates tournament. So, I don't know. It'll be good to see him back. And, like, I think he's actually, like, a fashion designer. He was, like, going to school to be one or something like that, which that was its own other story. I'll just give, like, my kind of spark notes, which is that, like, I just think that, like, you know, maybe he just realized that becoming world champion would be, well, it would be, like, harder than he actually thought it would be. So he just decided to, like, well, I have other interests. I'm just going to, like, pursue them. Like, I'm not going to be, like, full-time professional player. So that was just my opinion. But anyway, it'll be good to see Ali Reza Firouzja back, and it'll be good to see how he does. There any other, I mean, Hikaru Nakamura, I guess, is the top seed vying for a candidate spot, so we'll see. As a Hikaru fan, like, I'll be rooting for him. You know, I think he'll be very interesting, like, if he's able to make it, just, like, you know, just, like, as always, seeing his, like, perspective, like, his recaps and, like, things like that. Yeah, some young players. Vincent Keimer's playing, some of the younger Indian players, and, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Well, I think that wraps up this episode of the podcast. I imagine next podcast we'll probably talk about, like, maybe Qatar Masters will finish. So we'll probably talk about that. And then I don't know what's on the agenda. I do intend to have some podcasts where maybe I talk more about, like, you know, like my chess rather than, like, the top level chess, and have some other episodes where I talk about just, like, general chess concepts. Like, I don't know. What do you want to talk about? Just feel free to let me know in the comments. With that said, I think I will go ahead and let you go. Just hope you enjoyed. As always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you for the next one. Bye.